Our YouTube, we're back course talking some Final Fantasy, and we are talking about how sad FF10 and Crisis Core are. So Dengeki Faminico Gamer did a survey recently asking people what RPGs made them cry the most, and Final Fantasy X and Crisis Core are both at the top of the list. Final Fantasy X is number 1, Crisis Core is number 2. With the survey, there was approximately 4,700 people that participated, so it wasn't like an astronomical number of people, but it also wasn't like a small number. It wasn't like 100 people, right? And if you look at the amount of votes that each game got, FF10 is far ahead of everything else, including Crisis Core number 2. Now, if you go on over to the website, we're obviously on some auto-translate type shit, but Final Fantasy X got 498 votes, which is more than 10% of the amount of people that participated. Crisis Core, on the other hand, got 289 votes, which is still a pretty good number considering the amount of people that participated. But that does mean that FF10 got 209 more votes, which puts it, again, ahead of everything by a lot. What's interesting, too, is if you look at the top 10, there's 2 other Final Fantasy games, Final Fantasy IX and Final Fantasy XV, but also Dragon Quest XI, which means Square Enix makes up half of the top 10 RPGs that make people cry, at least according to this survey. Here's a quick look at the top 20 posted by Genki the other day, but there is, I believe, actually like 40 top games or whatever that somebody posted on Reddit the other day as well, which I certainly love to see as a Square Enix fan, that they put out these games that are that impactful on people that it makes them actually cry, right? I will say, when it comes to at least the 5 games we talked about, Dragon Quest XI, I thought it was a great game. I played it last year or the year before, whatever it was. I thought it was a great game. I didn't get impacted by it emotionally. I don't think I ever even got emotional at all. Definitely didn't cry. But Final Fantasy 15, however, definitely got me emotional at the ending with like the campfire sequence where he says, "You guys are the best," or whatever. That hits every time. But also, I think the first time I played it, whenever you get to pick a picture, right, one of the pictures you've taken throughout the game, then you get that shown at the end of the game too. That definitely hits. And with like Final Fantasy IX, I don't think I ever got emotional at a younger age, like kind of when I first played it. But as I've gotten older and I can interpret the story more and understand characters more and stuff, it definitely does hit at certain parts of the story for sure. But the main ones for me here on this list, of course, are Final Fantasy X and Crisis Core, which are 2 of the only games that ever made me like cry or get emotional at all in my entire life, right? Really, I can only think of like 4 or 5 games that got me to that point, and a lot of them are Final Fantasy games. Obviously, FF10 and Crisis Core. FF7 Remake and Rebirth both did it for me, but at specific points, like with FF7 Remake, the first time I was playing it, I'm drinking a few beers, enjoying, firing up the game and stuff. And I'm a couple beers deep by the time we get to the Sector 7 slums and just kind of walking around there and experiencing, like, finally FF7 that looks like this. That hit me a little bit. And then Jesse's death scene, which probably there's also some beers involved there, too. For Rebirth, it was obviously the dying Barrett segment, which I've talked about plenty of times, having some problems with. I still think it's an effective emotional scene. It still did get me emotional, mostly down to John's delivery. And the other scene in Rebirth being the Barrett trial within the Temple of the Ancients, which is something I've been kind of waiting for a long time, getting a little bit of backstory on Barrett with his wife, Myrna. And they actually delivered this, but also it's an effective emotional scene. God damn, is it emotional. And the other game would be Red Dead Redemption 2. Getting to the ending of that game, like, that shit ripped my heart out. But that's, like, as far as I can remember, those are, like, the only games that have ever got me to that point. I've definitely been invested in characters and really, enjoyed the story of a game, but the amount of times that I actually get emotionally impacted when I'm just playing that game in my room by myself, it doesn't happen very often. But hopping back to Final Fantasy X and Crisis Core, these were the first games that ever happened for me. Final Fantasy X specifically being the first piece of media, probably, other than maybe crying at something when I was a kid, like maybe like a Disney movie, like fucking Lion King or something, I don't know. But then I can recall, like, Final Fantasy X was the first time that ever happened. And there's probably, like, several factors that can go into that. For one, it's just an amazing game, right? The characters are fantastic, the story's fantastic. But also, I'm kind of at that age where, like, I'm interpreting media better. I was, like, a preteen when I was playing that game, and maybe, like, maybe preteen or teenager whenever I finally beat it. My first playthrough of the game lasted a good year or 2, year and a half, 2 years, something like that. I don't know. Like, I played it for a long time by myself, and then I got stuck. I told the story before, but I got stuck on the Riku fight, where you fight with Tidus and Waka under the water, the Moonflow, where they kidnap Yuna. I played up to that point in the game, never using the sphere grid. I don't know if I just, like, didn't interpret it right, or didn't pay attention, or just fucking spammed X through the dialogue or some shit. I don't know. But I went through the entire game not using it, because I just relied on the summons. And I didn't know how I did that for the longest time until somewhat more recent years, where I learned that, like, the summons get stronger up to a certain point when they win fights. So my summons were still getting stronger throughout the game, but obviously that fight you don't get to use summons. So I got stuck there for a long time. Then I met my friend Adam, who I've talked about on the channel before, that introduced me to Final Fantasy IX. And I was like, dude, can you help me with this game? Like, I can't beat it. I'm stuck at this point. And he went through the menus and discovered the sphere grid, and, like, we destroyed Riku, because I probably had maybe 99 levels, because I wouldn't be able to beat Riku with Tidus and Waka, so I'd go back to like the fucking whatever the pathway is before the moonflow and like grind a little bit, come back, and I couldn't understand the fact that my characters were not getting stronger. But again, the point of bringing that up is that I did that playthrough for a very long time. Like those characters in FF10 were part of my life for, again, like year and a half, 2 years or something, where I was just playing that game like mostly every day. I was probably playing other shit too, but you know, Tidus and Waka, Yuna, and all those characters were a big part of my life at that age. You know, I'm only like 12 or 13 whenever I'm playing FF10 and beating it or whatever. So like that's a good fraction of my life were these characters. And when you finally get to that ending sequence on the airship after they beat Sin, man, like that shit fucked me up a lot at that age. And the same can be said for Crisis Core. That's a game that I absolutely loved when it came out. It's the only reason I bought a PSP. I played some other games on my PSP, but I literally same day went and bought a PSP and Crisis Core back when that shit released in like 2007, 2008, whatever it was. And the thing is, when you get to the ending, I don't know if I knew that Zack was supposed to die. Because I don't recall if at that point I had seen the optional scene in the Shinra basement in the original FF7. By the time that Crisis Core comes out, I've definitely played FF7 several times. I don't know how many at that point. But again, I don't know that I ever came across this moment. I just can't recall that's been so long ago. So like when we get to the ending of Crisis Core, where Zack dies, like I don't know if I was expecting it. I mean, obviously we see that Angel has the Buster Sword earlier in the game. He dies, passes it on to Zack. And I know that by the time we get to FF7, Cloud has the Buster Sword. But I don't know if I knew how we got to that point. When we get to the end of Crisis Core, when we get to the Zack death scene, like that shit destroyed me back then. I have like a somewhat vivid memory of like laying on my futon playing the game and just tears pouring down my face. It's like 17, 18 years old. I don't remember how old I was exactly, but like fucking hell, dude. That shit killed me back then. And I think a big part of why something like FF10 hit me so hard at that age, and something I've realized throughout the years as I've gotten older, is that I think I related to Tidus a lot because of his resentment towards his father, which is something I definitely felt at that age because my dad, you know, wasn't around. He left whenever I was like 2 years old or something. My sister was just born. Like he just disappeared, right? So I spent a lot of my life at those early like years disliking my father, and it's not something I picked up on, which is kind of strange. You think you would, but that age, you know, I'm watching and playing this game where this main character hates his dad, and like I think I was just kind of relating to him, and I just didn't realize that until later in life. Obviously, very different situations. My dad didn't get swallowed up by a giant whale and transported to a different world, and there's also a bit of a happy ending for, you know, Tidus Inject by the end of FF10, and not over here. I don't really hate the guy anymore. I don't think about him. He's a non-factor in my life, so it's just as I've gotten older and into my 20s and 30s, I just don't even think about the guy anymore. It's like whatever. Never been a part of my life anyways. But again, I think that's why FF10 is so special to me. Like, there's aspects of the story that I could relate to, even if I didn't really realize it back then. And I think that's why it's always been one of my favorite games. And even to this day, if I hear, like, Tazanarkand or Yuna's theme, or if I, like, watch a Let's Play of FF10, like, getting to those emotional moments, like the scene that Tidus and Yuna have in Makalani Woods with a kiss, or, of course, the ending sequence, like, the waterworks can get going. And even, you know, very recently when I played through Crisis Core Union and got the Platinum, and I got to the ending segment, that I've seen how many fucking times in my life, like, I was still getting a little bit emotional, still getting a little bit of waterworks going, even though I've seen Zack die so many fucking times. Like, that shit still hits me to this day. I'm glad to see I'm not the only one. It seems like, you know, these games impacted a lot of people as well. And there's other, you know, Final Fantasy games that are on this list, like Final Fantasy VII. It's a little bit low down the list. It's like number 24, I believe. But I will say, like, FF7, at least for me, like, the original game didn't have a lot of, like, emotional moments. And at the age that I played FF7, I wasn't going to get emotional anyways. Just at that age where that type of shit did not matter to me. Like, I was probably shocked by, like, Aerith's death, right? But I wasn't sad or crying. And I didn't use her anyways. Like, my team growing up for several playthroughs probably was always Cloud Barrett and Red 13 and or Vincent, right? That's kind of the only team I used pretty much every playthrough I did of the game. So, like, I had no real attachment to Aerith, really. There's other emotional moments in FF7 original, like the dying segments or like the live stream sequence. You can even go to like Under the High Wind if you're somebody that's like really invested in like the Cloud Tifa relationship, right? As you're playing through the game for the first time. Like that can maybe get you emotional in like a positive way, right? But at the ages I played FF7, that didn't happen, right? And I've played it so much throughout my life that even playing it now, like that doesn't really affect me too much, other than maybe the dying segment on random playthroughs that might hit me a little bit emotionally if I'm like really zoned in on the playthrough. It was really cool to see, too, when this list came out, that Kazushiga Nojima, like, weighed in on it, and he said, "Oh, I'm delighted. I worked on scenarios and settings for 1st, 2nd, 24th, and 33rd places. I'm also somewhat involved with 10th place. There's nothing more joyful than knowing that my past work continues to linger in the hearts of those who played it, even after all these years." And that does have to be rewarding, right, as somebody who creates art, whether that's writing stories, making video games, music, TV shows, movies, whatever that might be. The fact that, like, almost 25 years later, that, you know, FF10 for a lot of people is, like, the game that made them cry the most, right? But of course, this is where I pass off to you guys. So when it comes to this topic, right, it doesn't even have to be RPG specifically. Just what are the like saddest games for you, or the games at least that made you cry the most? It can be crying in a positive way too. Just what are those games? This video is that is the video. Subscribe channel if you guys are new. So in the description below. Follow me on Twitter @DaveYT. That's it. Bye.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more, and nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore, I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect. We spend it with no shame. We blow that like Coltrane. We in here like Low Gain or leave it like Cobain.